Hey Thrivers, what's the most important piece of narcissistic abuse recovery? I'm going to give you a clue. It's about love, but not in an obvious way. So hang out with me throughout this video so that you can really unpack it and understand it. Let me start from the start. Okay, when we were little kids and we're with our parents or our caregivers, well, we really wanted them to love us and we needed them to love us because love is an umbrella of so many things. Love is things like care, it's about our shelter, it's about our food, it's about our ability to physically survive, it's whether or not we feel validated and whether we feel worthy and whether we had the attention and the resources invested in us to grow up to feel that we were lovable and we were worthy and we were solid enough to be our own source of love, which means being worthy and being able to provide our own survival and security and have the resources to be able to function healthily in the world and feel solid in the world and in our own bodies. And of course, in many circumstances, because our parents or our caregivers were people who were damaged, from their own parents or caregivers, they may not have had the resources or the capacity or even the desire to be those things for us. So then what happens is we go through life missing out on those fundamental inner pieces, and we get with people who let us down again and who hurt us in response to love, approval, survival, and security. But what is the thing that hurts the most in narcissistic abuse? It's that understanding of you didn't love me. For example, somebody who has lied or cheated or betrayed or smeared or treated you incredibly cruelly, or done things like abuse by proxy and all of the other horrific things that we know narcissists are capable of doing, really what it boils down for us is you didn't love me enough to treat me lovingly. So really, that's the macrocosm of it. You didn't love me. That's what so hurts. And the microcosm is all the bits and pieces of what they did, which really shows us that we weren't loved. So what's the most important piece in narcissistic abuse recovery? It's to realize that our lovability and our love for self and being in our bodies and being in life needs to be not dependent on a specific person's behavior or character. And of course, as kids, that was incredibly difficult. We didn't have the resources to be able to shift into that solidness and that development to know that we can be love, approval, survival, and security regardless of what anybody else is or isn't doing. We were really highly dependent, which means codependent, that we needed to get ourselves and our resources and our feelings about ourselves, life, and others from other people to internalize it and then become that. So as a child, many of us, for whatever reason, missed the boat. That didn't happen. And that is what it is. But as adults, we have an ability through choice and decisions to be able to repair what happened with the horror and the terror and the heartbreak of you didn't love me. So fundamentally, the piece of narcissistic abuse recovery is to decide to love ourselves enough to be able to do the inner work and release that trauma of not being loved and come home to filling with the love of source, creation, and our higher self, to know that we are lovable, loved, and capable of loving simply because we exist. which is the truth of how creation sees us and how we're not seeing ourselves, because we've been attached to false sources trying to get that truth from them instead of coming home to self and doing the work to know the truth between us and true source. That's the peace. And when you make that your greatest mission, what you will find is that the trauma dissolves away and the trauma symptoms, which were fundamentally about trying to get love from all the wrong sources and all the wrong places. And when we come home to loving ourselves, then so much shifts that we no longer have a hunger for trying to get people who don't have capacity or don't have the desire or show us that through their actions they're incapable of being loving, which really is because they don't love themselves and they're wounded. But we stop trying to force people to be loving, to give us our own lovableness. So we're no longer interested in connecting up with those people and trying to force them into healthy love relationships when they don't have the capacity or the desire to be that. And the reason why we can say no or let go or put an end to it is because we already have that sense of solid love within self. And there's such a deep truth in we won't accept a level of love less than the level of love we have for ourselves. So that brings on board things like deservedness and boundaries and a solidness to be able to go empty, working with life and source to generate what is loving and what is authentic and what is healthy for us. So I just wanted to really unpack it and bring it down to the lowest common denominator about the most horrific hurt that we have through narcissistic abuse is you didn't love me. And for those of you who are already Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program NARP members, I can't recommend enough doing either Module 1 or the Source Healing and Resolution module on that trauma. You didn't love me. And what you will find out by shifting out that trauma is it's not just that narcissist or those lovers and or my parents. It will be all of that that's being released up and out of you. And when you're bringing in this source healing and the source knowing of I am loved beyond measure because I exist, either Module 1, Source Healing and Resolution module, or set up a goal setting module. I am loved beyond measure by all of source because I exist, or whatever wording really feels congruent for you. That's such a big, big piece. And this is why we've got to turn inwards to become that level to self. Otherwise, if we're not, we're going to keep pursuing people and situations in the field, which is all of life, that actually match our inner composition on that topic, which is our beliefs and trauma programs of I'm not lovable enough to be loved, which means we'll end up with people that confirm the validity of that belief over and over and over again. So I hope that this has helped and this has made you understand that you have capacity and you have the organic cellular coded truth to be love, because you were made in the image of source, as source flowing through you as you, which is love, regardless of what anybody else is or isn't doing. And when you do the inner work, that just won't be a concept for you. That will be an embodied, powerful truth. And then the pain ends and true love begins. I really hope that this helps, and I'm looking forward to any of your comments and questions on this topic. Lots of love. Bye bye.